Centical MBA Festival raises many questions about what you want to do with the next steps of your personal and professional journey. New skills that you can learn, of course, great new networks, and testing your limits. Do you even know what your limits are? Perhaps for some of you, you're looking to test those limits in an international environment. Where better to look than Germany, the heartbeat of the European economy, and ESMT Berlin. It's a school that's ranked the #1 business school in Germany by the Financial Times. It's in Berlin, which is the startup capital, the cultural, the political capital of the country. And it's always a pleasure to welcome Rebecca Lodes. Rebecca is the director of the MBA programs at ESMT Berlin, and my Centre Court viewers will know she brings incredible energy and brightness and just belief in the MBA. So Rebecca, it's lovely to have you back. Are you well?
I am. Thank you very much. I'm going to apologise in advance to everyone watching in case I'm a bit sniffly, sneezy, but hopefully we have it under control. I think it's the season. Lots of people are being struck down, but it's always a delight to talk to you. Thank you.
Well, a number of years now at ESMT, watching the school evolve across, the Masters in Management, Exec Ed, but at the heart of it, the MBA program that the school launched with. And that's under your watch. Now, what do you most enjoy in the leadership role that you have?
To be honest, what I really enjoy, it's actually the entire community. So it's kind of working with our faculty, working with staff in order to develop and deliver programs which we believe have impact. And then it's actually, I'm part of, I'm not admissions myself, but I do help out with the admissions in terms of, like, every now and then someone will have the unfortunate opportunity to have an interview with me, also on the admissions committee. So looking at all of the people, the students we have coming through, and then seeing how they kind of grow, develop and change, and then seeing what they go on to do afterwards. So I consider myself very fortunate that I am able to be part of somebody's transformational journey, because often the student that may come into us at the beginning of the program and the student that leaves, of course they're the same, but hopefully they're different as well.
Now that transformation at the individual level, at the city level, Berlin in the last 34, 35 years, and of course this school that has emerged as such a big player on the European scene, itself in constant transformation, including the MBA program, which you've reviewed and said we can make it even better. Tell us about that.
Definitely. So what our guiding principle was, I guess there were two guiding principles. So first one, priority is employability. How can we ensure that we are equipping our students to actually be the best person, and also to really improve their prospects within the employment market, not just for their first job? I think it's super easy to focus on that. For me, it's actually around your second and your third, because that is where I would like to see us kind of really having a difference. So there's that. And there's also to increase choice. Now, choice within, obviously, the umbrella about what we as a small boutique school can deliver. So there's always going to be some of the trade-offs. We don't necessarily offer the same amount of choice as some behemoth. However, how can we ensure that you can create an MBA program that's tailored to your needs? So we pack a lot into 15 months. Everyone has a core, yes. We then have specialization tracks, which build upon our strengths: analytics, innovation, and leadership. We have summer options, where you can craft, so social impact projects where you can apply your learning, make a difference. We have an internship, so you can go out and really start to work and gain experience. Maybe you're looking to switch careers, so this is your opportunity to try that. And also a German language bootcamp. Then we have, in the elective period, we've made that longer. You have a short or a long international exchange option. You can either do an entire semester at the partner institution, or you can do a 1-week short international exchange via the Global Network for Advanced Management. So that's 32 odd schools around the world. Then you have your consulting project, and then afterwards, and you've heard me speak about this, the thing I'm super proud of, which I just think ESMT does so well, is our Responsible Leaders Fellowship, where we actually financially support our graduates in order to apply what they've learned to an NGO or a social enterprise in the developing world for 3 to 6 months. Yeah. Always gives me goosebumps, because I just think it's something phenomenal. So that's 15 months plus, but that's a lot that you can do in a short amount of time. And it's really interesting to see how much our students are kind of like grabbing that with both hands.
And they really are, of course, application volume were record levels last year. Now they're going through the roof. Word is out at this top program and reaching out. With your family, perhaps they're used to you having this very international career. When you share with people, perhaps a candidate that you meet or an aunt or an uncle, ESMT Berlin, how do you like to describe the school?
I like to say that we are a small boutique business school that deeply cares about our students. We're probably sometimes, if I'm being slightly snipey, I'll say that we're the best business school you've never heard of. Because one thing I kind of think is I think we are phenomenal. And when I look at what we do via our, what else is in the market, we really do stand out. We are dynamic, we are agile. There is something that is so wonderful about studying at ESMT. And it's interesting, we've been doing some branding work, had an organization come in, and they said one of the things that really struck them about ESMT and our students, because they spoke to students, alumni, a lot of people, is that they said what they were struck by is the level of cooperation and effectively engagement students have with each other. So this is not a hyper competitive environment. You are not going in there to kind of like dog eat dog world by any stretch of the imagination. This is around developing yourself and actually being an important part of helping develop someone else, and it comes through. And that's actually what we look for admission. So that was lovely to hear that an external person has noticed that we are able to actually demonstrate in that in our classrooms and in the students and the alumni that we have.
Yeah, but between boot camps, responsible leadership, and the emphasis that you place, it's wonderful to hear. It's not just that first position, and of course your graduates are getting great first across industry, startups. We talk about the startup culture in a city like Berlin. But perhaps in that wider sense of personal development and leadership, when you think about the individual that arrives in January at the start of the program and then seeing them 15 months later, what do you observe?
I've observed that they've been through an intense experience, so I'm not going to sugarcoat that at all. So they have been kind of like pushed through the ringer, survived the other side. They have learnt about themselves and others. I think we are a really, really international school. Current class is 97% international. We, even in our part-time programs, we see 2/3 to 70% of our students have a non-German nationality, so kind of like super, super international, which means that you are having experiences to learn in a multicultural environment, which is unlikely to be something that you can replicate in the business world. So it's kind of really seizing and taking advantage of that. I also see that they are really taking on board the leadership development, which is embedded throughout the program. So we have, yes, there's formal academic stuff. So we have, leading through networks, leadership under pressure, responsible leadership. We also have, in partnership with careers, a specific careers curriculum designed to help you understand who you are, because I think a lot of good personal development comes from actually increased self-awareness. So how can we inculcate that throughout the program? And so it's lovely to see that folks come in and then they leave the program with a stronger sense of who they are and what they want to achieve.
What role does Berlin play? Because I'm not sure that they have time to make the most of all of the museums and the nightclubs and just the cultural scene, but also a political scene, as a key European capital. What role does the city play as they're also then learning about themselves and think about their next steps?
Definitely, I think the city does play a huge role actually, because it obviously impacts who we have coming through, who we actually, in terms of, obviously teaching, learning. We do high performance teams, so we do take them out and we kind of like plunge them into the Berlin countryside, which Berlin is a very green city, so it doesn't take too far. Then we obviously have, you would be surprised that students do manage to definitely take advantage of the Berlin life. I think it's the work hard, play hard mentality. And of course, one of the things is, being this kind of very diverse international city that we have in Berlin, it means there's a lot of diverse international talent that we can also bring into our programs, which I think is a real advantage.
Right. You yourself have an MBA from one of Europe's top business schools, and talk about that transformative experience when you sort of think about the Rebecca before and the Rebecca today. So what advice do you have for individuals, whether they're in a startup or whether they're in a Fortune 500 company, collaborative, deeply personal? What do you think are the elements that you need to then be successful in business?
For me, I think if I think about that, I think one of the underrated elements, but I think it really plays out, is around empathy and actually being able to really think about the impact that you're having and also what others are going through, because I think that that's really important in terms of your own leadership, be it of individuals, of teams, and of organizations. I also think about things like communication, and communication isn't just about one way, it's about a two-way conversation, and it's about listening or not communicating or listening to others and clarifying as much as it is about speaking or kind of like being the sender versus the receiver. And then I guess the third is probably around coaching and that these people development. And it's interesting because obviously, you know, there's so much in the news around artificial intelligence, around kind of, you know, ChatGPT and other text processing engines, you know, empathy, communication, and coaching. Okay, communication you can be supported by, coaching you can be supported by, but these are very human, in a sense, characteristics, which, yes, you can combine with technology and increase your effectiveness, but ultimately this is about who you are and what you want to be, and just really focusing on those. So that would be the three that I probably would pick on. I can come up with so many others though, I must admit, but those are the immediate three that come to mind.
And when candidates apply to the program, and if they're tempted to say, well, Rebecca, you know, I looked at this list of the founding companies. I mean, it reads like the who's who of German business, from you know, the big banks and insurance firms. You've got transport. Everybody's there, and they sort of say to you, "I want to be a product manager at one of these founding companies at BMC." How do you encourage them then to use the 15 months and a little bit of additional time that now in the 15-month program to both pursue those goals that they've shared as they apply to the program, but also be very open and explore other opportunities?
I think what's fascinating actually is it's often rare when you have an MBA student that starts the program and says, I want to do X, Y, and Z at company Y, who actually does X, Y, and Z at company Y. And I think that's one of the gifts of an MBA to an individual, particularly if you're studying full time, is that it does allow you, because who you or what you think you want to do and you come in may not necessarily be what you wish to do, because that's been framed by one worldview, and you've been exposed to so much during the program that's likely to shift your worldview. So what does that mean for students coming in? Explore everything, to be honest. Seize everything with both hands. Go for it. I mean, you don't have this opportunity very often to take that time to step back from work, to really invest in yourself on a full-time basis, and to really kind of think about, okay, what do I want to do? So really revel in that luxury, be open-minded, be curious, think about other ways in which you can, not necessarily being so super laser focused, but just potentially to broaden your perspective. Talk to alumni, talk to current students who are in different programs, learn more and use your network in order to develop that broader perspective. And so that then you'll be better positioned for when you go, actually, maybe I still want to do that, and that's what I'm going to do. Then it helps ensure that you're in a good position to actually pursue it.
Right. And presumably those conversations, whether with students, with alumni, it speaks to the diversity. You said how incredibly international the MBA program is, but there's a gender balance that you've also achieved in attracting, you know, talented young women into the program. Why does it matter so much, and what are the efforts that ESMT Berlin is undertaking to broaden that pipeline and to enjoy that much success?
When I think about diversity, to me, it is around diversity means difference. And so therefore, this is about actually, you know, so much of an MBA program is learning with and from each other. And so therefore, we would be doing you a disservice if we had too much of a homogenous classroom, because that means that you're reducing your opportunities to learn. And so it can be background, it can be experience, it can also be diversity in thinking. You know, it's very easy to assume X, Y, you know, something, but actually I think that that's super important to have people with that different viewpoint and perspective that they're bringing. Now, in terms of how do we attract people to that, I think we are advantageous. Berlin itself is a welcoming city that celebrates difference. If you think about kind of, you know, what do you think when you think Berlin? You think kind of okay, this place of experimentation, this place of difference. You see the kind of these opportunities for people to actually to really play around with who and what they are. And so therefore, I think, that is something where our location really does come in. We also have obviously things like scholarships in order to help, and that's obviously helping financially. We also are kind of, something that I actually consider very, very important is around, actually helping connect our applicants with our alumni so that they can actually learn firsthand. Because I can talk about it to my heart's content. I can be as passionate as I want. But ultimately, as an applicant, you probably want to talk to someone who's gone through it. So there's also around, the advantage of our diversity is the fact that we can actually likely put you in touch with somebody who may be very similar to you, who can actually give you that kind of that voice from the ground around what was it actually like, and verify what I'm saying.
Right. So both Berlin as a city being very welcoming, sort of a laboratory for experimentation, and perhaps the next step as we think about diversity, the sense of inclusion and people then being able to identify. How do you make that distinction, and how is that embedded into the program?
We have thought about how we can strengthen the position of DEI across the entire curriculum. So it starts now, we have a DEI kind of introduction that happens in the first month, and that is kind of like, it is touched upon at later dates within the curriculum, so that it's not a one shot and it's done. Because obviously, thinking about DEI when you first come into a program, and then, okay, what does DEI really look like? Because DEI is difficult and thorny. So therefore, this isn't something that can be just done in a 1 hour seminar and that's it. We have a DEI officer at the school who actually is working across the entire community to ensure that we're being inclusive. We have done a number of things under the aegis of our gender equality plan. So it's not specifically inclusion for everything, but think about with the gender dimension. We have a gender in business case competition. We have actually incentives for our faculty to integrate the gender dimension into what they're teaching. And also, thinking back in terms of the program, it's how we can support students, because you're going to be working in a very, very diverse group. So it's also around, your success is predicated on working together. So therefore, that is part of it. Further, I guess, how further work we do around inclusion, social impact project, that's really predicated very much on inclusion. And also things, obviously, the Responsible Leaders Fellowship. And finally, to make sure that we are honest and, keeping on track, we also have something called the Inclusive Leadership Roundtable, which is a student-driven roundtable, of which I am a staff member, so I joined their meetings. And this is really around how we can ensure that ESMT genuinely does address the underrepresentation of women and marginalized groups within our organization, and also across what we do, how we do it, and who we are, so we can really kind of like start to influence and create change.
Right. So the DNA that you've shared with us, let me also go back to the name of the school, deeply European and very international. And this combination of management and technology. And here we are perhaps at this tipping point, whether we knew what was happening in November 2022 and the launch of ChatGPT. But as you think about the future of graduate business education within that perspective of, the convergence of management and technology, what do you see that lies ahead, and how do you ensure your students will be ready for that future?
I think when I think about this intersection of obviously kind of AI, machine learning, what I think is so fundamentally important is actually skills like critical thinking, because you can ask questions and crap in, crap out. I mean, if you do not, as I think lots of people who played around with ChatGPT will see, if you ask a bad question, you will get a bad answer. So therefore, to me, actually enabling our students not only to understand or to think about how to use technology in order to make humans super versus a superhuman. And I'm quoting a little bit from something I heard at MIT. And so, that ability, that interaction with how we work with technology is fundamentally important. And that's really what's straddling the management and technology. So critical thinking. I think it's also around how you can then apply technology in order to create business advantage. So therefore, that is the piece where it's actually putting technology into action. In the full-time MBA, that's echoed through obviously our specialization tracks and then through electives. In our part-time programs as well, the part-time MBA is specifically focused on business innovation and digital transformation. So that really is around how you can leverage it for advantage. But also, I think the other part is that the landscape is changing. You know, you said November 2022, ChatGPT. You know, what if we were talking about this in January 2020? It wouldn't necessarily have been on people's horizon. So it's that ability to look at what is happening, to be able to take that in, to think about the business opportunity. So this is where entrepreneurship, intrapreneurship, innovation comes to the core. And that is, again, something which ESMT is really strong in. So I kind of like the last piece is probably around a global perspective, because none of this happens in isolation. This is all happening on the world stage. So I think that kind of like coupled with the other elements is where ESMT can really help our students.
Well, our viewers, just in these 20 minutes, I think, you know, the passion that you share for such a wonderful program, it just bubbles to the surface every time. So next steps, you know, the thinking, wow, you know, that this is, I'd love to explore, find out more about the program. What do you recommend? You talked about conversations, perhaps students, alum, and of course your team.
Exactly. I mean, to us, I think get in touch. Get in touch is always, you know, write to us. We are happy to introduce you to current students and alumni so that you can talk to them and learn from them. Our admissions team are absolutely phenomenal as well, and they are a font of advice. I think one of the things that's really important for students or those considering ESMT to think about is the fact that we want you to be successful, and if we don't think you can be successful, we will actually say so. And so therefore, you know, this is not about just trying to get anyone into the program. We want to get people in the program which we believe we can actually help you create the change you want, and also that you will be there to play a pivotal role in helping create the change in our other students within the program. And so I think that that's fundamentally important, that you evaluate how you're going to fit, which is effectively what you're thinking about when you're talking to alumni and students, is like, you know, what's it really like? What's the culture like? Do I see myself being there? And so, yeah, get in touch. Always. admissions@esmt.org.
Right. Viewers at Centre Court, you follow these events. You've heard me welcoming many people. I've been fortunate to know Rebecca now for, I don't know, 15, 20 years. She is one of the most vibrant individuals in our industry, and it's such a pleasure, Rebecca, to have you with us at Centre Court to share that. But as you say, it's, you know, ESMT, you know, great opportunities might be the right place. Thinking more broadly about the MBA and just with the insights and ideas that you've shared will be of enormous value to everybody, I think, that's watched this session. So thank you for joining us at Centre Court again.
Thank you so much. Absolute pleasure as ever, and I hope to see you in person soon.